cappuccino
that contains caffeine.
aka C8H10N4O2.
C8H what?
Caffeine that contains caffeine.
Okay.
No, wait, you don't understand. Caffeine is one of the most frequently ingested pharmacologically active substances in the world and one of the most widely used internationally. It is a stimulant of the central nervous system, the cardiac muscle, the respiratory system, and metabolism.
I love coffee. It's my pride and joy.
It's the best thing.
Plus, it tastes good.
Caffeine is also known as trimethylxanthine and is classified as an alkaloid, which is a term used for substances produced as end products of nitrogen metabolism in some plants. It has a white powder or silky needle appearance. The substance melts 238 degrees Celsius or 460 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is very soluble in hot water. It is odorless but has a bitter taste. The chemical formula for caffeine is C8H10N4O2.
Yeah, okay, but where are you going with this?
Caffeine easily passes through the body membranes once consumed, and it takes 45 minutes for 99% of it to be absorbed after consumption. Caffeine is absorbed rapidly into the bloodstream from the gastrointestinal tract, and it reaches maximum concentration in 1 hour. Caffeine reaches the liver from the gastrointestinal tract and is metabolized by the cytochrome P450 oxidase enzyme system into 3 metabolites: paraxanthine, theobromine, and theophylline.
84% of the consumed caffeine is metabolized into paraxanthine. This increases lipolysis, which is the breakdown of fats as to release fatty acids. It elevates glycerol and free fatty acid levels in the blood plasma. 12% of the consumed caffeine is metabolized into theobromine, which dilates blood vessels and increases urine volume. 4% of the consumed caffeine is metabolized into theophylline, which relaxes the smooth muscles of the bronchi.
After drinking coffee,
I feel energetic as it keeps me up at night.
after like a period of time, I started to feel it.
Increased alertness, energy, and ability to concentrate.
Anxiety, restlessness, insomnia.
Increased heart rate, blood circulation, urine production.
Increase body's level of entropin, the pleasure-enhancing neurotransmitter. Stimulates nervous central system by blocking adenosine and causes adrenaline glands to release adrenaline.
Pupils dilate, muscles tighten, increases dopamine level. Increases capacity for bodily labor by eliminating fatigue symptoms. Caffeine readily crosses the blood-brain barrier and binds to adenosine receptors on the surface of cells without activating them, acting as a competitive inhibitor. This means that the receptor is completely shut down and can't work to inhibit the neuron anymore, allowing the neuron to be more active than it was before the caffeine entered the brain. This prevents adenosine from binding, which results in the elevation of blood levels and causes the feeling of alertness and energy. The half-life of caffeine is between 3 to 7 hours. Some research has actually shown that caffeine can be addictive.
Addiction is being abnormally tolerant to and/or dependent on something that is psychologically or physically habit-forming. A habit is formed when one does something continuously, which may or may not occur at a certain time. The difference between an addiction and habit is when the habit is prolonged over than the usual period.
So, the question is, do you think caffeine is addictive? For some, caffeine may not be deemed addictive in your opinion, but for others, it may be the opposite.
No, I want some coffee!
But the reality is that caffeine is addictive. There are 2 factors that can cause caffeine addiction: the constant intakes of caffeine and the resulting effect that has on the body, and also the level of dopamine in the brain. One intake of caffeine injects adrenaline into the body to give the drinker a boost. Typically, the adrenaline takes only a few hours to get out of the body system, and the immediate effect is sleep. But then the drinker won't want to go to sleep, which causes another intake of caffeine, spiking up the adrenaline levels and making the user more alert and awake. But if the intake becomes to be a continuing occurrence, the sleep deficit will accumulate, and the drinker will want to consume more caffeine to avoid a come down, which soon creates a vicious cycle. The drinker then becomes addictive to caffeine. The brain contains dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that transmits nerve impulses across a synapse, which is the junction between 2 neurons or between a neuron and a muscle. The dopamine allows the brain to control the flow of information from other areas of the brain and activates a part of the limbic system, which is also known as the pleasure centers in certain parts of the brain. The connection between dopamine and the limbic system is a mechanism responsible for the craving connected with the addiction to drugs. The caffeine molecules manipulates the dopamine levels in the brain and therefore helps maintain the happy mood and dependency on the drug for the drinker.
Whoa, that's intense.
Exactly.
Well, thanks.